I don't fight fair. I fight to win. My so-called best friend stole my girlfriend, Isabella Frost, then tried to flip the script and make me the bad guy. So, I broadcast the security footage of them together on the jumbo screen in Times Square. Isabella pretended to apologize, then shoved me off a rooftop. I just grabbed her and pulled her down with me. If I was going down, I was taking everyone with me. The next thing I knew, I opened my eyes in a different world. I've been dropped into some trashy, melodramatic romance novel, cast as the pathetic male lead who gets emotionally and physically wrecked by the heroine. A synthetic voice buzzed in my head. As long as you follow the plot to its miserable conclusion, let the heroine completely destroy you, and wait for her regret meter to max out so she can start groveling for a second chance. You will be resurrected and rewarded with a fortune. It added, dripping with sarcasm. All the previous hosts threw tantrums, thought being transmigrated made them the main character of their own action movie. They all tried to fight back. They were all erased by the world consciousness. Take my advice. Know your place. Don't get yourself killed for nothing. It waited, expecting me to break down. Instead, my eyes lit up. I almost jumped out of my skin. You're telling me I get to make some manipulative user miserable? I'm a professional at that. The system went silent, utterly dumbfounded. Host, did you mishear? You're supposed to be the one getting wrecked, not the one doing the wrecking. I cracked a grin, all teeth. Get wrecked? Then wait for her to regret it? Too much work. It's far more efficient to just destroy her so completely she doesn't even get the chance to regret it. One and done. The system started screaming in my mind. No, absolutely not. You must follow the plot. You'll be erased. I mentally tuned it out like bad static. Just then, my phone started vibrating violently. The caller ID read, Vivian. Ah, yes. The heroine of this sad little story, Vivian Hale. My name is Leo Vance. I'm her boyfriend in name only. In reality, I'm her backup plan. And her personal organ bank? According to the novel's plot, Vivian's one true love, the trust fund scion Preston Sterling, is currently laid up in a hospital in dire need of a kidney transplant. And I, lucky me, am the chosen donor. Vivian is supposed to call me, weeping, swearing that I'm the love of her life, but she just can't bear to watch Preston die. She'll beg me to be a hero and donate a kidney. The original Leo, a complete fool blinded by love, actually bought it. He was so moved he was practically bawling, rushing to the hospital to get tested without a second thought. And the result? The kidney was donated, and Vivian immediately ran off with the recovered Preston Sterling. She even had the audacity to claim the original Leo was trying to blackmail her with the donation, that his sacrifice was disgusting. I answered the phone and put on speaker. Leo. Oh, Leo. Vivian's suppressed sobs came through the speaker, engineered to sound pitiful and fragile. It's me. What's up? My tone was as flat as if I were asking about the weather. Vivian audibly faltered, clearly not expecting that reaction. But she recovered quickly, turning up the waterworks. Leo, where are you? I'm so scared. Preston. He's not going to make it. Her voice cracked. The doctor said he needs a kidney transplant right away, or else. She choked on a sob, unable to finish. I listened to her performance in silence, almost amused. Okay, and Vivian's crying stopped dead. What? I said, okay, and he needs a kidney. What's it got to do with me? My voice was edged with impatience. The silence on the other end stretched for a full 10 seconds. The system roared in my head. Warning, warning, plot deviation at 5%. Host must immediately comfort the female lead and express willingness to sacrifice for love. I blocked its frantic noise. Vivian's voice was a mix of disbelief and anger. Leo, how can you be so cold-blooded? Preston is your friend. How can you just stand by and let him die? Friend? In the original story, this Preston Sterling made a habit of groping Vivian right in front of the original Leo, all while mocking him for being a broke loser who was punching way above his weight. Now that he needs my kidney, we're friends. Me, cold-blooded? I let out a short laugh. Vivian, you want me to donate a kidney to save him, right? I cut straight to the point. Vivian started whimpering again. I know it's a terrible thing to ask, but I have no other choice. Leo, I'm begging you. If you save him, I'll do anything you want. Anything, I repeated, letting the word hang in the air. Yes, anything. Her voice was desperate, like she was grabbing at a lifeline. All right, I said, my tone crisp. You'll do it. Vivian's voice was a cocktail of shock and joy. The system breathed a sigh of relief. Okay, thank God. You scared me to death, host. You're finally back on track. I cut its celebration short. Don't get too excited. I'll donate the kidney, but I have 2 conditions. Tell me. I'll agree to 200 conditions, not just 2. First, market price. $1 million for a kidney. Fair, right? But since we're friends, I'll give you a discount. Let's call it $888,000. A lucky number. Second, the wire transfer has to clear before I go on the operating table. It is live organ removal, after all. I need to make sure my sacrifice has value, don't I? Dead silence on the other end of the line. Leo, are you insane? How can you turn saving a life into a business transaction? Vivian's shriek nearly blew out my phone speaker. I'm transacting with my own life, I replied calmly. One kidney for 888 grand. I think it's a fair trade. If you think it's too expensive, feel free to find another donor. No pressure. You bastard. The line went dead. The system in my head was having a complete meltdown. Plot deviation at 15%. Host, you're playing with fire. The world consciousness will notice you. So what if it notices? I shot back. Is it going to crawl through the internet and punch me? System. It seemed I'd short-circuited it. It stayed quiet for a long time. I casually poured myself a glass of water. This was just the beginning, and they were already losing it? The real show hadn't even started. Sure enough, less than 10 minutes later, an unknown number called. As soon as I answered, an arrogant, angry male voice barked through the phone. Is this Leo Vance? Speaking. Who's this? It's Preston Sterling. He announced his name as if it were a royal title. I don't care what you're doing. You get your ass to the hospital. Now, Vivian is a complete wreck because of you. A man like you doesn't deserve her. I had to laugh. Mr. Sterling, are you confused? Is Vivian your girlfriend or my girlfriend? She's a wreck, so you should be comforting her. Why are you calling me? And for the record, whether I deserve her or not is none of your business. What you need right now is my kidney, not my opinion on relationships. You want my kidney? Bring the money. $888,000. Not a penny less. Preston was practically hyperventilating. You dare ask me for money? Do you have any idea who I am? I can make sure you never work in this city again. You hear me? There it was. The classic rich boy threat. Too bad it was useless on me. I turned on my phone's call recording feature. Mr. Sterling, I asked calmly, are you threatening me? What if I am? You're a broke nobody. Crushing you would be like stepping on an ant. Excellent. I nodded, satisfied. This call has been recorded. According to the National Organ Transplant Act, coercing any person to donate a human organ is a federal offense, punishable by up to 10 years in prison. Mr. Sterling, would you like to test that? The other end went silent instantly. I could just picture the ugly scowl on his punchable face getting even uglier. Also, a friendly reminder, I added helpfully, making a scene and threatening people in a public place like a hospital. It's not a good look. Your family cares about its image, doesn't it? You beep, beep, beep. He hung up again. I let out a low whistle, feeling pretty good. The system's electronic voice trembled. Host, plot deviation has reached 25%. The world consciousness has locked onto you. Oh, I shrugged, unconcerned. Let it come. I was curious to see what this so-called world consciousness could actually do to me. The rest of the afternoon was quiet. Vivian and Preston left me alone. I figured they were regrouping, trying to come up with a new strategy. You can't wait for people like that to make the first move. I opened my laptop and started digging into Preston Sterling and his family's company. Know thy enemy. Taking down an arrogant fool was as easy as breathing for me. As I was scrolling through financial reports, my phone rang again. This time, it was the father of this body I was inhabiting. I swiped to answer, my face a mask of indifference. You useless brat. What the hell do you think you're doing? A deafening roar blasted through the speaker as soon as the call connected. The Sterlings already called me. Are you crazy? Offending Preston Sterling. Do you want our little family business to go under? I held the phone away from my throbbing ear. So, what you're saying is for the sake of your little business, I should just let someone cut out my kidney and give it away? It's for your own good. If you can get on Mr. Sterling's good side, you'll be set for life. It's just one kidney. People have two. You won't die from losing one. Listen to that. Could you even call that human speech? This was the original Leo's father, selfish to the core, willing to sacrifice his own son for a shot at profit without a moment's hesitation. I don't need to sell my organs to secure my future, I said coldly. And my kidney isn't going to anyone, so you can all just give up on that idea. You ungrateful child. How did I end up with a son like you? If you don't go apologize to Mr. Sterling and donate that kidney, you can forget you have a father. I don't have a son like you. Fine, I said, the word coming out calm and even. The other end of the line fell silent. He was stunned. What did you say? I said fine. Disown me. Works for me. Saves me the trouble of taking care of you in your old age. My words were sharp, deliberate. If you want, we can go to a notary and sign a document. Put it in black and white. Make it legally binding. With that, I hung up. Finally, complete and total silence. My so-called father didn't call back. He probably passed out from rage. But this was just the beginning. I knew Vivian and Preston wouldn't give up that easily. If they couldn't get what they wanted through direct confrontation, they'd resort to sneakier methods. Sure enough, the next day, posts started appearing online. Shocking. VU campus heartthrob watches friend die. Girlfriend forced to kneel and beg. A failure of humanity or a collapse of morals. As scion of wealthy family lies dying, his so-called friend demands $1 million ransom for his kidney. The posts were written with dripping melodrama, painting me as a cold-blooded, greedy, irredeemable monster. Vivian, meanwhile, was portrayed as the tragic heroine, so devoted to saving the man she truly loved that she was willing to kneel before her worthless boyfriend. The accompanying photo showed Vivian on her knees, face streaked with tears, a picture of perfect, rain-swept misery. The background was blurry, but her expression was crystal clear. She looked so fragile, so broken, that any man would feel an immediate urge to protect her. In an instant, the internet exploded with outrage. WTF? This guy's a total piece of SHD. He'd let his friend die for money? What a scumbag. Vivian is a saint. How did she ever end up with a loser like him? Dox him. Find his school, his address, everything. Garbage like him doesn't deserve to breathe. A tidal wave of public opinion crashed down on me. My phone blew up with abusive texts and calls from unknown numbers. On the university subreddit, my photo was pinned to the top with thousands of vile comments underneath. I even started noticing strangers loitering outside my apartment building. The system's voice chimed in my head, full of schadenfreude. See, host? This is what happens when you fight the plot. Now everyone is against you. You're all alone. All alone. I laughed. Who says? I closed the browser tabs filled with hate comments, opened a new document, and started typing. An hour later, a lengthy post was ready. I didn't bother arguing with the brain-dead trolls on Reddit or Twitter. I went straight to the source. I called the top investigative reporter at Viridian City's most respected newspaper. Hello, is this Mark Wallace? It is. My name is Leo Vance. I'm the person at the center of the recent $1 million kidney story. I have something I think you'll be very interested in. Half an hour later, I met Wallace in a coffee shop. He was in his late 30s, with sharp, intelligent eyes. Mr. Vance, you said you have proof? He asked, getting straight to the point. I nodded and pushed my phone across the table. There are 2 audio recordings on here, and a copy of my latest medical report. Wallace put on his headphones and played the first recording. It was Preston Sterling's threat. Crushing you would be like stepping on an ant. As that line played, Wallace's eyebrows shot up. He immediately played the second recording, my conversation with Vivian. $1 million for a kidney. Fair, right? The wire transfer has to clear before I go on the operating table. After listening to both, Wallace sat in thoughtful silence. I didn't interrupt, just calmly sipped my coffee. I then showed him a screenshot of my medical report. This is from my physical last month. As you can see, my blood type is A positive. And for what I've gathered, Preston Sterling is O negative. They're not a match. A transplant would be impossible. They never actually wanted my kidney. Wallace's eyes lit up. As a veteran journalist, he could smell a massive story. Then why would they? The reason is simple. I cut him off. Vivian wanted to dump her poor boyfriend and get together with Preston Sterling with a clean conscience. But she didn't want to be labeled a gold digger, so she staged this entire drama. She painted me as a greedy, heartless villain. That way, when she leaves me, she looks like she's doing the world a favor. She gets sympathy instead of scorn. And Preston? He just enjoys the power trip, the cat-and-mouse game of controlling someone's fate. To him, this is all just a game to flaunt his status and power. Wallace took a deep breath, his expression shifting into something more complex. Mr. Vance, you're remarkably calm. I gave a dry chuckle. The person who wasn't calm would have been cyber-bullied into suicide by now. Why did you choose to give this to me? Because you need a big story to boost your career, and I need a platform to set the record straight. We both get what we want. I looked him directly in the eye. And I trust your professionalism. Wallace smiled. Mr. Vance, it's a pleasure. He stood up. Don't worry. By tomorrow morning, everyone in Viridian City will know the truth. The next morning, the city's largest newspaper, the Viridian Daily Chronicle, ran a front-page headline in bold, black letters. The Sterling Scandal, a staged sickness and a web of lies. In the article, Wallace laid out the entire sequence of events with meticulous clarity. He published transcripts of Preston's threats. He provided a detailed analysis of my conversation with Vivian, framing my demand for money as a defensive maneuver. But the real bombshell was the proof he'd obtained through a source inside the hospital. Preston Sterling's actual medical file. Preston wasn't suffering from end-stage renal failure. He had a simple case of pyelonephritis, a kidney infection, the kind that didn't even require hospitalization, just a course of antibiotics. The entire thing, from start to finish, was a complete and utter fraud. It was like dropping a bomb on the city. The keyboard warriors who had been savaging me online just yesterday did a complete 180. Holy SHD. A plot twist? So Vivian and Preston were acting the whole time. He needed a new kidney for a kidney infection? Do they think we're all idiots? This is disgusting. Using public sympathy to boost their own drama and ruin her ex-boyfriend? Those two bastards deserve to burn. Feel bad for Leo. He got cheated on and then cyber-bullied by the entire internet. That's rough. The stock of Preston's family company, Sterling Industries, plummeted the second the market opened. Hordes of angry citizens gathered outside the Sterling Industries headquarters, holding signs and demanding a public apology. Vivian's social media accounts were obliterated. She was bombarded with every kind of filth imaginable. Rumor had it she received over 10,000 death threats in a single day, suffered a complete mental breakdown, and was hospitalized. And me? I was suddenly the calm, intelligent victim-turned-hero who used the law and his wits to fight back. My phone started blowing up again. This time, it was flooded with messages of apology and support. The pinned post on the university subreddit changed. An apology to Leo Vance. We all owe him the truth. The system in my head was no longer screaming, but whimpering. Plot deviation at 60%. The main world timeline is beginning to collapse. Host, I'm begging you, please stop. If you keep this up, this world will be destroyed by logical incoherence. Let it be destroyed then, I said, completely unconcerned. I'm not from this world anyway. System, I'm begging you, man. What is it you really want? What do I want? I let out a cold laugh. They tried to ruin my reputation. I'm going to ruin their entire family. It's only fair. Just then, an unknown number called. I answered, and a tired, elderly voice came through. Is this Mr. Leo Vance? This is Arthur Sterling, Preston's father. The old fox of the Sterling family had finally decided to show his face. Mr. Sterling, to what do I owe the pleasure? The pleasure is all mine, Arthur Sterling said, his tone remarkably humble. My son was foolish and offended you. It is a failure of my parenting. I am calling to personally apologize on his behalf. You're too kind, Mr. Sterling. Your son only wanted to play games with my kidney and destroy my life. A trivial matter. No offense taken. My words were a slap in the face. He was silent for a long moment before speaking again, his voice strained. Mr. Vance, I know you've been wronged. So, let's talk compensation. Name your price. Anything the Sterling family can provide, we will. I only ask that you be merciful and let this matter go. He wanted to buy his way out of it. Mr. Sterling, do I look like a man who needs money? If money was what I wanted, I would have asked for a lot more than $888,000. Arthur Sterling clearly understood this, and his voice grew even heavier. Then, what is it you want, Mr. Vance? It's simple. I tapped my finger on the table. I want Preston Sterling and Vivian Hale to hold a press conference. I want them, in front of the entire Viridian City media, to give me a public apology. And at that press conference, I want them to admit, in their own words, exactly how they orchestrated this sham and manipulated public opinion to destroy me. Arthur was audibly struggling. This wasn't just an apology. This was a demand to have the Sterling family's reputation dragged through the mud and stomped into the ground. Can't do it. I chuckled lightly. Then there's nothing to discuss. Mr. Sterling, your company's stock didn't look too good today. I wonder how it'll look tomorrow. It was a naked threat. On the other end of the line, Arthur Sterling's breathing became heavy and labored. After a long silence, he finally spoke, his voice deflated like a punctured tire. Fine. I agree. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. The Grand Ballroom at the Meridian Grand Hotel. I expect to see some genuine remorse. I hung up and stretched, leaning back in my chair. That was just the appetizer. The main course was yet to come. The press conference went ahead as scheduled. The ballroom at the Meridian Grand was packed wall to wall with reporters. Camera flashes went off like a constant, silent fireworks display. I sat in the front row, calmly watching the stage. Preston and Vivian stood behind the podium, their faces as white as sheets. Preston's eyes were filled with humiliation and venom. He stared at me as if he wanted to flay me alive with his gaze. Vivian just kept her head down, her shoulders trembling, a perfect portrait of pitiable fragility. Unfortunately for her, the reporters in the room weren't buying the act anymore. The patriarch, Arthur Sterling, hosted the conference himself. He began with a pained speech about his failures as a father and the terrible impact this incident had on society, for which he was deeply sorry. Then, he shot a look at Preston. Preston clenched his jaw so hard I could hear it from my seat. He squeezed out 3 words. I am. Saw the. His voice was barely a whisper. I cupped a hand to my ear. Sorry, mister. Sterling, what was that? It's a bit loud in here. I couldn't quite hear you. A ripple of laughter went through the press corps. Preston's face flushed a deep, ugly shade of purple. Arthur glared at him. Preston took a deep breath and practically screamed the words. I'm sorry. I was wrong. I shouldn't have made up lies for fun. I shouldn't have threatened Leo. I'm a bastard. I'm trash. With every word he shouted, the hatred in his eyes intensified. I nodded, satisfied, and turned my gaze to Vivian. Miss Hale, your turn. Vivian flinched. She looked up, her eyes swimming with tears. Now, I know I was wrong. Please, can you forgive me? I wasn't thinking straight. I still have feelings for you. She was trying to play the sympathy card again. I cut her off. Vivian, spare us the nauseating performance. I want an apology, not a confession of love. Tell everyone, step by step, how you and Preston planned this whole thing. How you set me up. The whole story. Right here, right now. The color drained from Vivian's face. Being forced to admit her own vicious scheming was worse than death for her. She looked pleadingly at Preston. Preston turned away, refusing to meet her eyes. Every man for himself. Vivian was lost. She knew there was no escaping this. Her voice trembling, she haltingly recounted the entire plot. From her fake, tearful phone call to how she'd staged the photo of herself kneeling, to hiring bots and trolls to manipulate public opinion. With every sentence she spoke, the camera flashes grew more intense, and her face grew paler. By the time she finished, she looked completely broken, slumping against the podium as if her bones had dissolved. I stood up, walked onto the stage, and took the microphone from her hand. I scanned the room. The truth is out. Thank you, members of the press, I said calmly. I hope that after today, the baseless speculation and vitriol online will finally come to an end. As for Mr. Sterling and Miss Hale's apology, everyone held their breath, waiting for the inevitable follow-up, waiting for me to say, I accept. I spoke clearly into the microphone. I do not accept. The room erupted. Arthur Sterling's face turned ashen. Preston and Vivian stared at me in utter disbelief. If an apology was enough, what would be the point of the justice system? I raised the microphone. The damage they caused to my reputation and my mental health cannot be erased by a few empty words. I have already retained counsel and will be formally filing a lawsuit against Preston Sterling and Vivian Hale for defamation and harassment. I'll see you in court. With that, in a room struck silent, I turned and walked off the stage, leaving them all with a view of my back. The system in my head was shrieking like a tea kettle. Plot deviation at 80%. The rules of the world are in chaos. You lunatic, are you trying to break this entire world? Break it? No, I was just delivering a little bit of karma. The effect of the press conference was explosive. The hashtag Leo doesn't accept trended #1 on Twitter. The clip of me saying, I do not accept, was turned into countless GIFs and memes. That was legendary. A total boss move. Why should he forgive them? Screw that noise. Go Leo. Sue those two into oblivion. Public opinion was overwhelmingly on my side. The Sterling family's PR team was in shambles, and Arthur Sterling nearly had a second stroke. Sterling Industries stock, after a brief recovery, went into another freefall. I had emerged as the undisputed winner of this whole affair. But I wasn't about to get complacent. I knew this was just the first round. The Sterling family had deep roots in Viridian City. They wouldn't go down this easily. They would find a way to retaliate. I needed more ammunition for the fight to come. I contacted Mark Wallace again and fed him some new information, tidbits I'd spent all night digging up from the original Leo's memories and online archives. Things about Sterling Industries' recent regulatory violations, tax evasion, and some of Preston Sterling's own special interests. For instance, his fondness for certain underground parties, the kind where things got very wild. When Wallace saw what I'd sent him, his hands were shaking with excitement. Mr. Vance, you're a gold mine. This stuff is enough to put the Sterlings through the ringer. I just smiled. I'm just stating the facts. Over the next few days, the business world of Viridian City was in turmoil. Thanks to Wallace's reporting, the IRS and the SEC both launched official investigations into Sterling Industries. Arthur Sterling was scrambling, calling in favors, only to find that his old buddies were now avoiding him like the plague. When you're falling, everyone wants to give you a push. At the same time, compromising photos from Preston's parties began circulating in certain elite circles. They weren't released to the general public, but it was enough to make the Sterling family a laughingstock among the city's upper crust. Preston became a total pariah, afraid to even leave his house. Just when I thought they might lay low for a while, my family decided to make an appearance. This time, it was my mother. She showed up at the foot of my apartment building, wailing and throwing a tantrum on the sidewalk. "Leo, you heartless child. How could you do this to your father? He's in the hospital because of you, and you won't even visit. Are you even human?" She shrieked, slapping her thighs for dramatic effect and drawing a crowd of neighbors. I watched her performance from my window, my face impassive. In the original Leo's memory, this mother was just as bad as the father. She believed firmly in favoring the son, just not this son. She doted on my useless younger brother. Growing up, all the best things went to him. If I made the slightest mistake, I was beaten. If my brother burned the house down, she'd just say, "He's only a boy." And now here she was. The reason was obvious. I went downstairs, pushed through the crowd of onlookers, and stood before her. "How much?" I asked, cutting straight to the chase. Her wailing stopped mid-sob. She looked up at me, a calculating glint in her eyes. "Your father's in the hospital. Surgery, hospital bills, recovery costs. We need at least $500,000, or he's not getting out of that bed." $500,000? He could have a terminal illness, and it wouldn't cost that much. "Where'd Joe?" "I don't have it," I replied coldly. "You don't have it? Who do you think you're kidding?" She shot up from the ground and jabbed a finger in my face. "Everyone in this city knows the Sterlings must have paid you a fortune to try and get you to drop the lawsuit. Don't you dare try to keep it all for yourself." "I'll say it again. I don't have any money." My voice dropped, turning icy. "And even if I did, you wouldn't get a single cent." "How dare you?" Her beady eyes widened. "I'm your mother. If you don't give me the money, I'll sue you for abandonment." "Go ahead." I nodded. "Sue me. In fact, that works out perfectly. I've been wanting to have a chat with a judge about the kind of parenting you two have provided all these years. We could talk about how I paid for my brother's college tuition, how I paid your mortgage, how most of the household expenses fell on me. And then we can talk about how you took my money and used it to buy your precious baby boy cars and condos, and to fund his gambling and partying." With every sentence I spoke, the color drained from her face. The neighbors started whispering among themselves, looking at her with contempt. And while we were at it, I leaned in slightly, delivering the killing blow in a low, steady voice. "I might as well request a paternity test, just to see if I'm actually your son at all." Those words hit her like a lightning strike. She shuddered violently, her face instantly turning a ghastly, bloodless white. Seeing her reaction, I knew. I had guessed right. My mother stood there like a strangled duck, mouth agape, unable to utter a single word. Her eyes, fixed on me, were wide with panic and terror. The crowd of neighbors erupted. "What? He's not their son. That explains it. I always thought they were so cruel to him. Now it all makes sense. My God, this is like something out of soap opera." Under the weight of their stares and whispers, my mother finally broke. With a sharp scream, she shoved her way through the crowd and fled. And just like that, the show was over. Back in my apartment, the system was trembling in my consciousness. "Host, H, how did you know?" "A lucky guess," I said flatly. In the original Leo's memories, his parents' behavior was utterly alien for a biological relationship. They treated him less like family and more like an enemy, or better yet, a walking ATM. So I decided to run a bluff. Turns out, it wasn't a bluff at all. "So what are you going to do now? Are you really going to get a paternity test?" Of course. There was no hesitation in my voice. If I don't sever ties completely, they'll stick to me like leeches for the rest of my life. I immediately went online and scheduled an appointment at a DNA testing facility. Just as I finished, my phone rang. Another unknown number. I answered, and a cool, professional female voice came through. "Mr. Leo Vance? This is Sloan Kennedy. I'm your legal counsel." "Sloan Kennedy?" I paused for a second, then remembered. I had hired a law firm to sue Preston and Vivian. Sloan must be the lawyer they assigned to my case. "Ms. Kennedy, hello." "Mr. Vance, there have been some new developments in your case against Sterling and Hale. I'd like to discuss them with you in person." "All right. When and where?" "Half an hour from now at the Blue Ridge Cafe downtown. Does that work for you?" "Perfect." I hung up, changed my clothes, and got ready to leave. The system piped up, curious. "Host, was this Sloan Kennedy in the original novel?" "No." In the original story, after being publicly humiliated, the protagonist never even considered fighting back with legal action. He just suffered in silence until he eventually took his own life. This Sloan Kennedy was another variable, one introduced by my presence. I was curious to see what kind of surprise she would bring. 30 minutes later, I met Sloan Kennedy at the Blue Ridge Cafe. She was younger than I'd expected, maybe in her late 20s. She wore a sharp, tailored business suit, her long hair pulled back neatly, revealing a high forehead and refined features. Her eyes were bright and sharp, like a drawn sword. Mr. Vance, a pleasure. She stood and offered her hand. Ms. Kennedy. I shook it. Her hand was cool but firm. After we sat down, she got straight to the point. Mr. Vance, the Sterling family has contacted me through my firm. They're hoping to arrange a private settlement. Oh, I raised an eyebrow. What are they offering? They're willing to pay you $3 million in damages, with a guarantee that Preston Sterling and Vivian Hale will never cross your path again. $3 million. For most people, that would be a life-changing amount of money. The Sterlings were trying to buy my silence. What do you think? I asked, turning the question back on her instead of answering. Sloane adjusted the gold-rimmed glasses on her nose, her gaze behind the lenses frighteningly calm. From a purely legal standpoint, the sentencing for a defamation case like this is typically not severe. If they show remorse and offer significant compensation, they would likely receive a suspended sentence at most. $3 million is, for your current circumstances, an excellent offer. Knowing when to quit while you're ahead is a crucial survival skill for an adult. She paused, then her tone shifted. However, personally, I would advise against settling. I looked at her, surprised. Why is that? Because you can't tame a rabid dog by feeding it. Sloane's eyes turned cold. If you let them off the hook today, they won't see it as mercy. They'll just see you as someone who can be bought. Once this blows over, they'll come after you again, but with methods that are far more subtle and vicious. When dealing with people like them, you either don't strike at all, or you strike once and you put them down for good. Make sure they can never get back up. Her words aligned perfectly with my own philosophy. I looked at her and smiled. Ms. Kennedy, I'm starting to think we're very much alike. A smile touched her lips like the first thaw of winter. So, what's your decision? I picked up my coffee, took a sip, and spoke slowly. Tell them, the word settle isn't in my vocabulary. The consequence of refusing to settle was a full-scale counterattack from the Sterling family. They seemed to realize that I would never compromise. So they began to mobilize all their resources against me. The first target was my academic career. A rumor suddenly started circulating at Viridian University that I had cheated on my final exams last semester. The university formed an investigative committee to review my case. If I was found guilty, I wouldn't just be expelled. I'd be branded for life. It was an attack designed to cut me off at the knees. I knew the Sterlings were behind it. One of the university's trustees was a longtime friend of Arthur Sterling. Pinning a crime on me would be child's play. The system panicked. Host, what are we going to do? If you lose your student status, your identity in this world is toast. What's the rush? I was still perfectly calm. I went to my academic advisor and requested to see the security footage from the exam room. My advisor looked uneasy. Leo, about that. The footage was already recorded over. Recorded over? I gave a cold laugh. Isn't university policy to retain security footage for at least 3 months? The exams were just over a month ago. Well, it was probably an equipment malfunction. He stammered, avoiding my gaze. An equipment malfunction? Fine. I nodded. In that case, I formally request to retake the exams. All of them. I'll do it right here, in front of the entire investigative committee. If I pass, my name is cleared. If I fail, I'll withdraw from the university voluntarily. My proposal left the committee members stunned. They never expected me to make such a demand. What kind of confidence did that take? The trustee on the Sterling family payroll looked particularly grim. He had assumed that destroying the security footage would be enough to seal my fate. He never imagined I'd refuse to play by his rules. That's against protocol. He tried to argue. How is it against protocol? I stared him down. You question my grades, so I'll prove them with my ability. It's the most direct and fairest method possible. Or are you afraid? Afraid I'll actually pass and make you all look like fools? My words shut him up completely. The other professors on the committee began to whisper among themselves. They'd just been roped into this to go through the motions. None of them actually wanted to ruin a student's life. My proposal gave them a perfect way out. Finally, with the support of my department head, my request for a retake was approved. The exam was scheduled for 3 days later. When the news broke, the entire university was buzzing. Everyone was waiting to see if I, the new campus celebrity, was a genuine genius or a complete fraud. The Sterlings got the news, too. Preston bragged to his inner circle. Just wait. He's finished this time. I've already paid off the professor writing the questions. The difficulty is going to be hell level. Not even a god could pass this. I just smiled when I heard. Hell level? Perfect. Time for a little warm-up. After all, in my previous life, I was a bona fide academic prodigy. 3 days later, the public re-examination was held in VU's largest lecture hall. The entire investigative committee, all the professors from my major, and dozens of student representatives were there to proctor. The room was fitted with 6 high-definition cameras, providing a 360-degree, unobstructed view. I sat alone in the center of the room, a thick stack of exam papers in front of me. I started at 9 in the morning and didn't stop until 5 in the afternoon. 8 straight hours, with only a 30-minute break. When I wrote the final word and put down my pen, the entire hall was silent. Everyone was looking at me like I was some kind of alien. The professors who had written the exams were holding the answer keys, their faces growing grimmer by the second. They had discovered that my answers weren't just all correct. For several questions, my solutions were more elegant and efficient than the official answer key. This wasn't just a top student. This was a genius. The trustee who'd been bought by the Sterlings was as pale as a ghost. He knew he was finished. The result was a foregone conclusion. I had scored a perfect score on every single exam, crushing the so-called investigation. The cheating rumors were obliterated. I used the opportunity to file a formal complaint with the university's ethics committee, reporting the trustee and his financial ties to the Sterling family. To save face, the VU administration immediately suspended him and launched a full inquiry. The Sterlings' attempt to destroy my academic future had failed spectacularly, and they had lost a valuable pawn in the process. I walked out of the exam hall and into the bright afternoon sun. Sloane Kennedy was waiting for me, leaning against her car. She handed me a bottle of water, a faint smile on her lips. Nice work in there. It was all right, I shrugged. The questions were a bit too easy. Sloane actually laughed at that. Get in. Let's celebrate. And while we're at it, we could discuss our next battlefield. Oh, I slid into the passenger's seat. And where's that? Sloane started the car, her eyes glinting with a sharp, predatory light. We're going after the Sterling family's money. The money Sloane was referring to was Sterling Industries' current bid on a massive urban development project in the city's South District. The project was worth nearly $10 billion and was the key to whether Sterling Industries could survive its current crisis. Arthur Sterling had bet the entire company on securing it. You're saying we're going to sabotage their bid, I said, grasping her plan immediately. Exactly. Sloane nodded. Right now, the Sterlings are like a wounded animal. Corner them, and they'll do anything. Instead of waiting for them to come at us again and again, we go on the offensive. We hit them where it hurts. If this project falls through, Sterling Industries' cash flow will collapse. At that point, we won't have to do a thing. The sharks who smell blood in the water will tear them to pieces for us. The plan suited me perfectly. It was ruthless and direct. What do you need me to do? You need an identity, Sloane said. An identity that can compete with the Sterlings at the same table. But I'm just a student. Not anymore. Sloane handed me a folder. Take a look at this. I opened it, and my eyes widened slightly. Inside were the incorporation documents for a company called Apex Holdings. And on the line for CEO, my name was printed in clear, black ink. Leo Vance. This is a shell corporation I registered in your name, Sloane explained. Don't worry, it's all completely legal. I fronted the startup capital. You can pay me back when you're rich. This company is your ticket to the bidding table. I looked at her, a strange feeling stirring within me. Why was this woman helping me so much? Was it just because I was her client? Sensing my confusion, Sloane smiled. Don't overthink it. I just have a personal dislike for the Sterling family. Besides, she added, a spark of excitement in her eyes, I'm very curious to see if you, the academic prodigy, can also work miracles in the world of business. I closed the folder and smiled back. All right, let's play. For the next week, I practically lived at Sloane's office. We pored over the South District project proposal, analyzed the competition, and formulated our bidding strategy. Sloane was everything she was advertised to be, one of the city's top corporate lawyers. Her professional knowledge and network were an immense help. In return, I unleashed the full power of my mind, which operated like a supercomputer. In 3 days, I built a complex data model that accurately predicted the project's costs, revenues, and risks. More importantly, I found a massive vulnerability deliberately hidden in Sterling Industries' public financial statements. To fund their bid for this new project, they had illegally diverted a substantial amount of restricted capital from another ongoing project. If this were exposed, Sterling Industries wouldn't just lose the bid, they'd face massive fines and federal prosecution. This was our trump card. On the day of the bidding conference, Sloane and I arrived as representatives of Apex Holdings. The moment we walked in, all eyes turned to us, especially those of Arthur and Preston Sterling. Their glares were hot enough to burn holes in my suit. Leo, what are you doing here? Preston stormed over, jabbing a finger in my direction. What I'm doing here doesn't require your approval, does it? I gave him a dismissive glance. This is a business conference. It's no place for a little punk like you. Security. Get him out of here. The venue's security guards started moving, but but they hesitated when they saw Sloane standing beside me. Her reputation in Viridian City far outstripped Preston's. "My, what a big shot you are, Mr. Sterling," Sloane said coolly. "Apex Holdings is a legitimate participant in this bid. If you continue to cause a disturbance, I will have you removed and charged with slander and disrupting a public meeting." Preston, speechless, could only slink back to his father's side. Arthur Sterling gave me a long, dark look. The bidding began. Representatives from various corporations took turns presenting their proposals. When it was Sterling Industries' turn, Arthur himself took the stage, delivering a rousing speech and painting a grand vision for the future. You had to hand it to the old fox. He was a good speaker. His plan earned nods of approval from several of the judges. Preston shot me a smug, triumphant look. Finally, it was our turn. Apex Holdings. I walked to the podium. Unlike the others, I didn't use a flashy presentation or flowery language. I simply and clearly presented our data model and our cost-benefit analysis for the project. My proposal lacked Arthur's grand narrative, but every number was precise to 2 decimal points. Every potential risk was identified with a clear mitigation strategy. It was professional, rigorous, and practical. The experts on the judging panel began to look more and more impressed. Finally, I turned my gaze to Arthur Sterling and spoke slowly. "Mr. Sterling's proposal is brilliant and admirable. However, I have one small question. Sterling Industries has pledged in its bid to invest $3 billion of its own capital. But according to my analysis of your company's financials, your current liquid assets don't even approach $1 billion. I was just wondering, Mr. Sterling, where exactly do you plan on getting that money?" My words dropped like a bomb in the silent room. Arthur Sterling's face changed instantly. You're lying," he sputtered, but the panic in his eyes gave him away. "Am I?" I projected a document onto the main screen. "This is Sterling Industries' last quarterly financial report, along with the funding to my analysis of your company's financials. Your current liquid assets don't even approach $1 billion. I was just wondering, Mr. Sterling, where exactly do you plan on getting that money?" My words dropped like a bomb in the silent room. Arthur Sterling's face changed instantly. You're lying," he sputtered, but the panic in his eyes gave him away. "Am I?" I projected a document onto the main screen. "This is Sterling Industries' last quarterly financial report, along with the fund allocation for your ongoing Riverfront 1 project. If my calculations are correct, to fund this bid, you diverted at least $2 billion from the restricted funds of the Riverfront 1 project, didn't you? Misappropriating restricted project funds is a federal crime. Mr. Sterling, what do you think would happen if I were to forward this information to the SEC right now?" The room was utterly silent. Everyone stared in horror at the data on the screen, then back at the deathly pale face of Arthur Sterling. Checkmate. This was a true checkmate. Arthur Sterling swayed on his feet, nearly collapsing. He pointed a trembling finger at me, unable to speak. Preston looked like he'd seen a ghost. He knew, in that moment, that the Sterling family was finished. "Order! Order!" the moderator shouted, trying to regain control. The chairman of the judging committee stood up, his face grim. Given the serious allegations of misconduct against Sterling Industries, their bidding eligibility is hereby suspended. We will form an immediate investigative committee to verify these claims. The outcome had sealed the Sterling family's fate. I walked off the stage. Sloane and I shared a look and a smile. We had won. After the conference, the scandal of Sterling Industries spread through Viridian City like wildfire. Misappropriation of funds, financial fraud. Each charge was a death sentence. Regulators moved in swiftly, freezing the company's accounts and taking Arthur Sterling into custody for questioning. Banks cut their lines of credit, and business partners terminated their contracts. When the walls come down, everyone wants a piece of the rubble. The once mighty Sterling Industries was on the brink of bankruptcy in a matter of days. The family's mansions and luxury cars were all seized and auctioned by the court. Preston Sterling went from an untouchable trust fund scion to a destitute nobody crushed by debt overnight. He tried to come after me a few times for revenge, but the security team Sloane had hired always stopped him. Last I heard, he was working odd jobs just to survive, living a life worse than any homeless person on the street. As for Vivian Hale, she disappeared completely after the Sterlings fell. Some said she was taken by a group of angry creditors and met a miserable end. Others said the shock drove her insane and she was committed to a psychiatric hospital. Whatever happened, she paid the price for her stupidity and cruelty. The system in my head had gone completely silent. It had probably accepted that in the face of a host this insane, its rules were a joke. It chose to play dead. The dust settled. The South District project, on the strength of our superior proposal, was ultimately awarded to Apex Holdings. Of course, a shell company like ours couldn't handle a project that massive on its own. Sloan had already lined up other investment partners. All we had to do was sell off some equity and reap the profits. In a single battle, I had gone from a broke college student to a new tycoon with a net worth in the 9 figures. And it had all taken less than a month. I stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of Sloan's office, looking out at the glittering expanse of Iridian City, but I felt nothing. None of this was what I wanted. What are you thinking about? Sloan came to stand beside me, handing me a glass of red wine. I'm thinking about when I can go back, I said softly, swirling the wine in my glass. My mission in this world was complete. The villainess and her accomplice had been served a punishment far worse than death. According to the system, I should be able to return to my original world now, resurrected. Sloane's body tensed for a fraction of a second before she relaxed. She smiled. What? You don't like it here? You have money, status, and a beautiful partner like me. It's all great. I looked into her eyes. But this isn't my home. Sloan fell silent. Just then, after days of playing dead, the system's voice echoed faintly in my mind. Host, I have good news and bad news. Which do you want to hear first? Spit it out. The good news is your mission completion has been rated S triple plus by the world consciousness. It's unprecedented. Not only will you be resurrected, but you'll receive a reward 100 times greater than the fortune you were promised. And the bad news? The system's voice was filled with a petty, vindictive glee. The bad news is, because you completely shredded this world's plotline, you caused an irreversible collapse in the fundamental rules of this reality. As a result, the temporal gateway has been sealed. In other words, you can't go back. The system's voice dripped with a sense of liberated malice. Is that all? I almost laughed out loud. Can't go back? Fine by me. I took Sloane's hand and led her straight toward the hotel's presidential suite. The end.